What are the tricks to understanding historical Scandinavian spelling? Imagine opening a book from hundreds of years ago and trying to read it without knowing the spelling rules of that time. It can feel like decoding a secret code. That's because early Scandinavian spelling was not fixed or standardized. Writers often spelled words based on how they sounded or their personal preferences. For example, consonants like double letters were used freely, and some letters appeared in different ways depending on the region or period. Recognizing this lack of uniformity helps you understand why old texts look so different from modern ones. Next, it helps to know that Scandinavian languages evolved from Old Norse, the language spoken by Vikings. Old Norse split into West Norse and East Norse around the 9th to the 13th centuries. West Norse became Icelandic and Norwegian, while East Norse developed into Danish and Swedish. Over time, each language changed its sounds and spelling patterns. For instance, Old Danish experienced consonant voicing and vowel merging, which influenced how words were written later. Understanding these differences makes it easier to see connections between old and new spellings. Another trick is to learn about the runic alphabets used before Latin letters took over. The elder and younger Futhark runes were used from around the 5th century. The younger Futhark had fewer characters, which meant sounds had to be represented differently. When Latin alphabet letters replaced runes, some old characters like thorn, persisted for a while. Recognizing these characters and their sounds helps you interpret early texts more accurately. It is also helpful to study major spelling reforms, especially the Swedish reform of 1906. This reform aimed to make spelling more consistent and distinguish Swedish from Danish and Norwegian. For example, the letter V was used more systematically for the V sound. Knowing about these reforms shows why older texts might spell the same word differently. Language contact is another factor. During the Middle Ages, Scandinavian languages borrowed vocabulary and spelling influences from Middle Low German because of trade and alliances. This influence is visible in Danish and Swedish from the 14th to the 16th centuries. Recognizing these influences helps you understand why some spellings seem unusual or borrowed. Phonological changes also play a big role. Over centuries, vowels lengthened or merged, and consonants changed sounds. Danish developed the stud, a kind of glottal stop, which affected spelling. Swedish kept older forms longer. Knowing these sound shifts helps you decode how words were spelled based on how they sounded at the time. Using comparison is a practical trick. Compare old spellings with modern words or related Scandinavian languages. For example, if you see fanger, it likely corresponds to the modern fange, meaning prisoner. Recognizing common sound shifts and patterns across Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian makes reading old texts less confusing. Finally, understanding the history behind the language reveals how regional identities and cultural heritage shaped spelling. Medieval manuscripts, legal documents, and religious writings show how language evolved in different parts of Scandinavia. Recognizing these spelling tricks helps you appreciate the rich history and diversity of Scandinavian languages. So, to sum up, understanding historical Scandinavian spelling involves knowing about its early fluid orthography, the evolution from Old Norse, the influence of runic alphabets, spelling reforms, language contact, and phonological shifts. Combining these facts makes reading old texts more straightforward and connects you to the deep roots of Scandinavian heritage and identity.